30 days ago, I made myself a promise. Every single day, no matter what I was studying, I had to explain it out loud, in plain language, like I was talking to a 5-year-old. No jargon, no hiding behind big words. If I couldn't do it simply, I wasn't allowed to move on. That was the deal. And what happened over the next 30 days completely changed how I think about learning. Let me back up. You've probably heard of the Feynman Technique. It's named after Richard Feynman, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist who had this one belief that separated him from almost every other scientist of his time. If you can't explain something simply, you don't actually understand it. Not you're bad at explaining it, you don't understand it. Full stop. I'd read about this technique a dozen times. I nodded along, thought, yeah, that makes sense, and then went right back to highlighting textbooks like it was 2015. So this time, I decided to actually test it. 30 days, every subject, no exceptions. Here's exactly what I did, what broke, and what changed.
The rules I set for myself. Before diving in, I needed a system. Because just explain things simply is way too vague to actually follow. So I built 4 steps. Step 1, pick a concept. Anything I was currently studying. One specific idea at a time, not a whole chapter. Step 2, explain it on paper, from scratch, as if teaching a total beginner. No notes in front of me, just my own words. Step 3, find the gaps. Every time I got stuck, used a word I couldn't define, or realized I was just repeating something I'd memorized without understanding it, I circled it in red. Step 4, go back to the source, relearn that specific gap, then rewrite the explanation until it flowed without a single stumble. That's it. 4 steps. Every day. Sounds simple. It was not.
Week 1, the wake-up call. The first few days were humbling in a way I wasn't ready for. I picked a topic I thought I knew cold, something I'd already gotten a decent grade on. I sat down, closed my notes, and tried to explain it simply. I froze almost immediately. I realized I'd been recognizing information this whole time, not understanding it. I could nod along to a lecture, I could reread a paragraph and feel that little spark of, yeah, I know this. But the second I had to build the explanation myself from nothing with no notes to lean on, huge holes showed up that I never knew existed. By day 3, my page was covered in red circles, words I used but couldn't actually define, steps I skipped because I'd memorized the sequence without understanding why it worked that way. It was almost embarrassing how much I thought I knew that I actually didn't. But here's the thing nobody tells you about this stage. That discomfort is the whole point. Every red circle was a gap I didn't know I had, and you can't fix a gap you don't know exists. Rereading my notes never once showed me these holes, because rereading only tests recognition. This exposed the real thing.
Week 2, the shift. Around day 8 or 9, something started to change. I wasn't dreading the exercise anymore. I started noticing something strange. I was explaining things faster. The concepts I'd already gone through the technique with, I could re-explain in under a minute. Clean, no stumbling. This was the first real proof that it was working. Because here's what the Feynman technique actually does that rereading never can. It forces your brain to build the concept from the ground up, instead of just recognizing it on a page. And once you've built something yourself, you don't lose it the same way. I also noticed I was using more analogies without trying to. When I hit a hard concept, my brain started automatically reaching for comparisons, simple, everyday things to anchor the abstract idea to. That wasn't something I forced. It just started happening because I was working with the material differently.
Week 3, the resistance. I won't pretend this stayed easy. Around day 15, I hit a topic that fought back hard. No matter how many times I rewrote the explanation, it stayed clunky, full of gaps, nowhere near simple. I got frustrated. Part of me wanted to just skip it, reread the textbook one more time and move on like I used to. But that frustration was actually useful information. It told me this wasn't a small gap. It was a real misunderstanding sitting at the foundation of the topic. I had to go back further than I expected, almost to the basics, before the explanation finally clicked into place. When it did, it wasn't just clearer. It felt permanent, like the kind of understanding that doesn't slip away a week later. This is the part rereading can never give you. Rereading lets you avoid your weak spots completely, because the page always makes sense when you're just following along. The Feynman Technique doesn't let you hide. It puts your weak spots directly in your path.
Week 4, the payoff. By the final week, the exercise had gotten almost automatic. I could sit down, pick a concept, and within a few minutes know exactly where my understanding was solid and exactly where it wasn't. I stopped needing to reread anything from scratch. Instead, I'd glance at my notes just to double-check accuracy, not to relearn. And then came the real test, an actual exam covering material I'd been using this technique on for weeks. I sat down expecting the usual pre-test blank mind panic. It didn't come. Question after question. I wasn't trying to recall memorized sentences. I was rebuilding explanations in real time, the same way I'd been practicing for 30 days straight. It felt less like remembering and more like just knowing. I walked out of that exam and genuinely couldn't remember the last time studying had felt that solid.
What actually changed? Here's what 30 days taught me. Understanding and memorization are not the same thing, and almost nobody tests the difference until it's too late. You can memorize a definition and still have zero real understanding of it. You can recognize a concept on a page and still be completely unable to explain it from scratch. The Feynman Technique exposes that gap immediately, on day 1, instead of letting you find out on exam day. It also taught me that struggle isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. Every time I got stuck trying to simplify something, that stuck feeling was the exact moment real learning was happening. The smooth, easy feeling of rereading a familiar page, that's the feeling of nothing changing in your brain at all. And maybe the biggest shift, I stopped studying to finish a chapter and started studying to actually be able to explain the thing. That single change in the goal rewired how I approached everything. How you can start tonight. You don't need 30 days to see a difference. Pick one concept you're currently studying, grab a blank page, put your notes away completely, and explain it like you're teaching a 12-year-old who's never heard of it. The second you get stuck, circle it. That circle is more valuable than an hour of rereading because it shows you exactly what to fix instead of leaving you guessing. Do that once tonight, and you'll already feel the gap between what you thought you knew and what you actually know. Do it daily, and 30 days from now, you might find yourself walking into an exam the same way I did. Calm, because for the first time, you're not hoping you remember. You know you understand. If you want to try this yourself, hit like and subscribe and drop a comment telling me what concept you're going to Feynman tonight. I'll be checking.